So here are solutions for quiz 8 for Math 243. So in this problem we're doing hypothesis testing with proportions. You can tell it's proportions because it doesn't say anything about standard deviation up in the top here. They give us a few numbers here that we have to kind of decipher. This 85% of all Oregonians would be our population proportion. So we use the symbol P0 to represent that. And then in a sample of 180, the sample size, we use the letter N. 160 of these people think the ducks are better. So using that 160, we figure out P hat. P hat is our sample proportion. And so in this case, it's 160 out of the 180. And then the last piece of information from here is this 90% certainty. We use alpha to represent our level of significance. It's 1 minus the level of confidence. So alpha is 10% or 0.10. So with all that information, we can start actually doing the tests. We have our null and alternative hypothesis. Our alternative hypothesis goes along with the claim. And so the claim is that people that watch the Civil War believe that the Ducks are a better team. So there'd be a higher proportion in the sample. So the way we can write that is we can say P, which is the population of the proportion, or the population of the proportion of the population if everybody watched this game, is greater than 85%, 0.85. And the null hypothesis would be that P is equal to 0.85. And then if you want down here, you can point out that your claim is a one-tailed test. In this case, since it's greater than, we have a right-tailed test. Something like that. Okay, calculating the test statistic. Two options. Maybe option 1. We would say that Z is equal to P hat minus P0 divided by our standard deviation, which in this case is the square root of P0 times 1 minus P0 divided by N. Or option 2 is using your calculator. Under your calculator, if you do 1 prop Z test, put in all the information. What you'll get is that Z, I guess I can write it over here, Z equals 1.461. Which is the same thing we'd get over here. Maybe I should put the numbers in. P hat is 0.85. No, point is whatever this percentage is, 160 over 180. Maybe I'll calculate that real quick. 0.889. This is approximately 0.889. So it would be 0.889 minus 0.85 divided by the square root of 0.85 times 1 minus 0.85, which is 0.15, divided by N, which is 180. And if you do all that, you get 1.461. All right, now they want to sketch a graph of the normal distribution showing this info. First of all, this sentence justifying the shape, we'll say because N times P0 times 1 minus P0 is greater than or equal to 10, the shape is approximately normal. And then we can sketch our picture. Maybe option 1 is if you're doing classical. And if you do it the classical way, we have our distribution here. And you want to come up with your rejection region. Well, I'll do option 2 also. Option 2 is p-value. So with the p-value, you just start with your test statistic, this 1.461. And then this area to the right of your test statistic is going to be your p-value, which the calculator gives is 0.072. Option 1 would be classical, where you first set up your rejection region. So you say we want 90% certainty. So this area right here is 10%. And then if you, I guess you can use your calculator and do inverse norm, 0.90, and you get that the critical value associated with 10% is 1.28. And then you look at your, so this is your rejection region, then you look at your test statistic, this 1.461. And that's in the rejection region. So your conclusion, either because test statistic is in the rejection region, or because our p-value, which in this case was 0.072, is less than alpha, which in this case was 0.10. So for either of those two reasons, there is sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis and conclude, let's see, what was our claim up here? That watching the Civil War leads people to believe the ducks are better. All right, and then finally the last part, what if we changed our claim? So things that would change. H1 would now be that P does not equal 0.85, so it would be two-tailed. So then our test statistic would say the same. So how should I write this? I guess if classical, then your rejection region would be on both sides. So critical values would be plus or minus 1.645. If p-value, new p-value would be double what it used to be. So instead of 0.072, it would be 0.144. So this would change for everything. Those would change, and either way, the conclusion would change. To not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. Yeah, I guess that's it. So that's the end of this quiz.